For the first time in 25 years, the US has a new polar icebreaker, and it's hitting the water as Russian fleets expand and 5 Chinese icebreakers prowl near Alaska. Washington calls it a race to protect sovereignty in the far north. But with Trump set to meet Putin in Alaska itself, the Arctic is no longer just a frontier. It's the battleground where military muscle, resources, and diplomacy now collide. Who will control the top of the world? The United States Coast Guard commissioned its first additional polar icebreaker in 25 years this past Sunday in Juneau, marking what officials called a new era in Arctic activity. The newly rechristened Storis, formerly the oilfield supply ship Icebreaker, represents America's belated response to growing threats in the far north. Troy Edgar, Deputy Undersecretary of the US Department of Homeland Security, speaking at the commissioning ceremony, said,
"What we're doing here today is we're really just preparing to build our Arctic fighting force."
The timing couldn't be more critical. US Senator Dan Sullivan of Alaska, who helped secure the $125 million purchase, put the challenge in stark terms during the ceremony.
"I think Singapore has more ice-breaking capacity than we do. That has left us far behind our adversaries. Russia has more than 50 operational icebreakers, many nuclear-powered, many weaponized. China, which has no Arctic territory, is building a polar fleet and is spending a lot of time off our shores, including this summer."
The Storis acquisition followed years of political maneuvering after Shell's Arctic drilling disasters in 2013 left the vessel available. Coast Guard officials initially resisted the purchase, with then Vice Commandant Charles Michael telling lawmakers in 2016 that
"Our current opinion is that the ship is not suitable for military service without substantial refit."
However, congressional pressure and strategic necessity eventually prevailed. Acting Coast Guard Commandant Admiral Kevin E. Lunday emphasized the urgency behind the accelerated timeline.
The original plan was not to have Storis up here for another year, but the national imperative was to move faster, and so that's why it's here.
Captain Corey Kearns, the ship's first commanding officer, brings experience from Japan, where he witnessed territorial disputes firsthand.
The ability to be present guarantees your ability to maintain sovereignty, and that's what we're trying to get at here in the Arctic. We need more icebreakers to be present in our waters and be clear what is our waters.
Even as the Storis was being commissioned, an unprecedented Chinese presence was unfolding in Arctic waters near Alaska. The War Zone reported Friday that 5 Chinese icebreaking vessels are simultaneously operating in the region, representing 2.5 times the number of icebreakers currently capable of Arctic operations by the entire US Coast Guard.
Although the vessels are operating in international waters and are not considered a homeland defense threat, their numbers represent an increase from years past. NORAD and US Northcom will continue to monitor the ship's progress while operating in the region.
The Coast Guard detailed its response efforts, stating that
on August 5th, a C-130JJ Hercules fixed-wing aircraft from Air Station Kodiak responded to the Chinese research vessels GD and the Zhongshan Daxia GD. Both vessels were transiting northeast in the Bering Sea.
The following day, the Coast Guard cutter Waisha intercepted another vessel as it crossed into the Chukchi Sea above the Arctic Circle. These operations fall under Operation Frontier Sentinel, designed to counter malign activities, defend sovereign interests, and promote maritime conduct consistent with international law and norms, according to Coast Guard statements. The Chinese presence reflects broader strategic ambitions. As the War Zone noted, China declared itself a near-Arctic nation in 2018, dubbing its northern interests the Polar Silk Road Economic Initiative. The International Institute for Strategic Studies observed that for China, regular use of the northern route would be an economic boon. The distance from Shanghai to German ports is over 4,600 kilometers shorter via the northern route than via the Suez Canal. Meanwhile, the US struggles with a critical capability gap. The The Coast Guard currently operates only 2 vessels suitable for Arctic operations, the Polar Star and the Healy, with only the Healy currently deployed in northern waters. Alaska's Governor Mike Dunleavy issued a stark warning, stating that Russia, China are trying to seize control of the Arctic. The US can't let them succeed. His opinion piece, published in the Fox News as Chinese vessels patrol near Alaska, outlined the strategic stakes.
Should China and Russia manage to dominate the Arctic, its sea lanes and its natural resources, we would be far less free as a country.
He detailed Russia's military buildup, noting that Russia deploys more than 30 diesel-electric icebreakers and 7 nuclear-powered icebreakers in addition to its combat icebreakers. As of 2024, it operates 32 military bases in the region and is rapidly building more. The governor praised President Trump's response, writing that President Trump's Big Beautiful Bill has allocated enough funds for 17 new icebreakers, $4.3 billion for up to 3 new heavy polar security cutters, $3.5 billion to build new medium Arctic security cutters, and $816 million for light and medium icebreaking vessels. These Arctic tensions form the backdrop for an extraordinary diplomatic development. BBC reported Friday that President Trump announced he will meet with Vladimir Putin on August 15th in Alaska to discuss efforts to end the war in Ukraine. Speaking at the White House, Trump said,
"We are going to have a meeting with Russia. We'll start off with Russia."
However, Trump suggested any breakthrough would require territorial concessions, stating, "There'll be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both." This approach directly contradicts Ukrainian and European positions opposing any territorial concessions to Russia. Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov confirmed the meeting, describing the Alaska location as quite logical, given the Arctic's strategic importance to both nations. As the Storis prepares for its first Arctic patrol and Chinese vessels continue operating near American waters, the meeting between Trump and Putin in America's northernmost state will unfold against the backdrop of an intensifying struggle for control of the world's last frontier. The convergence of military buildups, territorial disputes, and high-stakes diplomacy makes clear that the Arctic has become the new focal point of great power competition.